Get ready to sit back, relax, and open your mind. Welcome to Thinking Deeply with Dudes and Beer.
Well, hello everybody. I am Chris Jordan, your host. Welcome to what I believe is episode 14 now of Thinking Deeply with Dudes and Beer. Something along those lines, right up around there. I mean, I can verify that rapidly, as a matter of fact. It's kind of sad for me to come in and not even know which episode number I'm on, but between all the podcasts lately and the guest hosting and the being on things and going out and doing live stuff and everything else, it has gotten to be crazy sauce, people. We have been all over the place. It's been fantastic. We are everywhere you want to be. We've been out at the Mikamoto auction. Yes, we are on episode 14, by the way. We are on episode 14. And, just been out doing stuff like that. Been out trying to find new content, trying to find new guests, trying to find sculpting out a show plan for the new episodes from episode 100 on, as far as what we do every month. Trying to do a month of sustainability where we just talk about sustainability and like off-grid living and, like the tagline says, solving the world's problems 12 ounces at a time. And how do we go about doing that? How do I go about launching Dads and Beer? And that's what a lot of this episode is about. This episode is specifically about catharsis, change, breaking out of the cocoon. We've cocooned ourselves now. It's spring. It's a time of rebirth. Go through any religious text and it'll tell you that. I'm not even going to get religious. Let's just look at like Mother Nature. Take a look out your window. Everything is coming back. I mean, I live in Texas here, folks, and there is about a month sweet spot window where you have beautiful wildflowers everywhere, and then once it peaks up over 85 degrees for about a week solid, they're dead and they're gone. You really do have to look for those beautiful moments to happen. You really do have to look for those special things to happen, and you have to learn to get ready to catharsize yourself, to change, to what's the catalyst? What is it that kind of stirs the pot and gets it going? And that's kind of what we're going to think about in this episode of Thinking Deeply, right after this message from our sponsor.
Hey, are you a musician? Do you play guitar, bass, or synthesizers? Are you a studio engineer looking for that different sound? Well, fret no longer. Austin Hot Mods is there for you. From Boss to Ibanez, DoD to EHX and more, Austin Hot Mods provides over 50 different modifications and customizations to some of the most popular guitar pedals on the market, from vintage to modern. So if you're looking for that boutique custom sound on a Craigslist budget, look no further. Contact Austin Hot Mods today and mention that you heard it here on the Dudes and Beer podcast for 5% off your first guitar pedal modification. Visit them online at austinhotmods.com. Texas owned and operated and home of the Mod of the Month deal. That website again is austinhotmods.com.
And that's a catharsis for me, folks. Believe it or not. I mean, Austin Hot Mods is a sponsor of our show. Money from Austin Hot Mods does get funneled into this program. It gets funneled into Talking Sound as well. They all share a space. So it was a catharsis for me here recently. I had to decide whether or not to keep Austin Hot Mods up and running. And it was a hard decision. It was a hard-fought decision for me. As a business owner, as an inventor, and I say that term loosely, but literally I've been like coming up with ideas since I was a kid. I have an old notebook of stuff. I've still got notebooks of designs. I come up with things. I like to say I invented them. This is my version of it, at least. So it is mine. There are many like it, but this one is mine. And I made it. And for me, that's cathartic. And I literally we had a worm that came through my server and just ate through some websites, and Austin Hot Mods was one of them, and it was down for about 2.5, 3 months. And I literally had to rebuild it from scratch, like a lot of the coding and everything else from scratch. And man, it was hard. It was hard. But when I came through it, it was like, and now it's starting to ring emails again. Now it's starting to get clientele again, and it's a good thing. And I feel good about it. I feel good not having folded it because, yeah, it is something that I love doing. It's something that I love. I love building. I love, excuse me. Wow. I love sneezing too. It's not often that happens on the microphone. Sorry, folks. But literally, it's something that I love doing, and I had to realize it again. I had to come to this point of catharsis, and I had to come to this point of change and kind of looking at it from a different aspect, from a different point of view. And that's what's necessary. You kind of, life is a jewel. It's a precious gem, and the most beautiful gems are the ones that are cut and clear and luster, but they have different facets, and each facet looks different. Each facet has a different depth. That's what adds to the cut of the stone. And that's what our lives are supposed to be. Our lives are supposed to be like faceted gemstones that we have taken time to craft the way we want them to be. And that's kind of what episode 102 this last week was about with Todd Nevins, was that ripcord moment, that moment where Dumbo takes the feather in his hand and just jumps and starts flapping. Eventually at some point in life, we all do it, whether it's in love, whether it's in business. At some point, we all take that inevitable leap, and we have to learn to examine why we make that leap, why we want to make that leap, why that leap is important. And it's not just that leap is important, it's that leap is intrinsically important. That leap, life does not happen without the leap. And I say that because I truly believe that the universe is a physical system, and what we put out, we get in. And it's a slinky. You can sit there with a slinky evenly distributed between your two hands, and if you keep your hands still, nothing happens. It's a slinky. It's got tons of potential. It's a spring, but it's potential energy. And without putting energy into it, you're not going to get a return of energy out of it. You see, and the universe is the same way. We're all the same way. We have tons of locked away potential. We just actually have to actively push that potential to make something happen. And when we push, the universe will push back. It will let you know what's supposed to happen. And that's the moment of catharsis. That's the moment where you realize that where the worm, the Catawba worm, realizes that it is something else. It's supposed to be something else, and it stops and it pauses and it encases itself and it starts rebuilding, and in a few weeks emerges as a butterfly, and is still intrinsically the same thing in a different form that now has a different function. And that's what I feel we have to look at spring as. People talk about it as spring cleaning. Man, we all need some spring cleaning, and I mean beyond like the realm of our closets and garage, folks. I mean inside. We all need some spring cleaning inside. We need to learn to realize that we are valuable human beings, that our ideas are valuable. Though they may not be unique, they are ours. Not all ideas are unique. Someone the other day came to me and was talking about something, and I was like, oh, you mean this? They're like, oh, man, dang it. I was like, yeah, you forgot about it because it wasn't really a success 10 years ago. But now there is a use for it. At the time, it was maybe too far, too future thinking, and it wasn't going to make it. But now is a different story, and that's a lot of what we have to consider. That's a lot of what we have to think about. And we have to think about what we want to be when we grow up, And I'm not talking about when we're kids. Good God, when you're a kid, go be a kid, man. Go be a kid. I don't even know if I want a 5-year-old Dalbus James Jordan to come up to me and tell me what he wants to be when he grows up. Unless it's an audiovisual technician. I would accept that. I would take that all day long. But seriously, like I don't remember knowing. Only thing I remember knowing what I wanted to be when I grew up at that point was an inventor, and that's why I say it to this day. That's why I try to keep that alive, because I can keep that alive. I can keep doing that. That is something that is utterly within my means. And for me to do so, for me to keep Austin Hot Mods going, inevitably fulfills the dream of that 8-year-old kid. You see, it makes as moderately successful as Austin Hot Mods is. It's not hugely successful. I'm not Robert Keeley. I haven't started my own line of pedals and things like that. Don't get me wrong. It brings in some trickles of income into my home, and it's great. It helps defray the cost of some things, and it's fantastic. It's one of my many sources of income that I have that are my sources that I've built. And that's what I'm talking about, the Dumbo moment, the grab the magic feather and jump and see what happens. Because I have a wife that loves me enough and flirts this with me and understands that I have to do these things. I'm compelled to do them. And sometimes they pan out, man. Sometimes they pan out really cool into some really cool stuff. Sometimes not so much. And I'm okay with that because I utterly believe in the fact of defining my own level of success. If I flew 3 feet, there'd be a lot of people that'd say, oh, you only flew 3 feet. And I'd be like, but I flew, right? And that's just me. And for me, catharsis, change, it's something that you have to want. It's something that you have to want to do, without the period of gorging that a catawba worm does before. And I keep saying catawba because they're big time here in Texas, and they're what bring about our monarch butterflies and things like that. And they feed on very specific plants. But it's interesting that, it is their gorging that is preparing them to change. That is preparing their body to change. And even now with Dalbus, all of a couple weeks away, by all due date, it's like he's changing, and it's obvious that, much like the butterfly in the chrysalis, that wants to break free and wants to get out and wants to dry those wings, Dalbus is wanting to do the same thing, and we should be wanting to do the same thing. we should be wanting to do the same thing in our lives. We should be wanting to break free of the chrysalis and crawl up to the highest, warmest spot that we can find and just let the breeze and the sun dry our wings so that we can fly off and do what we're supposed to do. That's what it's supposed to be. And for some reason or another, and I asked this of Todd Nevins the other night, do you think everybody is built for this? And I think everybody has the potential. Everybody has the potential for this. All right. In the same way that every acorn has the potential to be the mighty oak. Okay. It depends on the soil in which it's placed. It depends greatly upon the amount of sunlight it's given, the environment it's in, the type of soil it's in, if it's rocky or, all these things play a difference. If it's in rocky soil, it needs more water. If it's in if it's in marshy soil, it needs more, arid temperature. It's all variable as to whether or not the acorn and where it lands even becomes the mighty oak, and that's what I think is our barrier. Is a lot of the nature versus nurture. We all have it naturally inside of us, but it can be greatly nurtured away, and it can be greatly discouraged, as I was saying the other night. It's literally the fact of people will discourage you from it. And the people that do, I'm not saying write them out. I'm not saying get rid of them. Some of them are going to be family, man, and some of them are going to be close family, and family that you wouldn't even expect would not support you in wanting to follow your dream. But they will call you irresponsible. They will call you a fool. By all means, make sure that your bills are paid. Don't just go out and pack it all up in a car and take off to Poughkeepsie and see what happens in life. We're grown folk, people. We're supposed to be a little bit more responsible than that. But what you can do is carve out some time during the week to start exploring these options. Like I said the other night, take pen to paper and write a schedule. Write down simple goals. In 30 days, I will have researched 3 alternate streams of income. 3 viable alternate streams of income that I am personally interested in. And put that caveat on it, that you're personally interested in. If you're interested in comic books, all right? Prime example, if you're interested in comic books, let's say, you could maybe see if you could find like a part-time job at a comic book shop. You could maybe see, which good luck with that. I mean, quite honestly, you're probably not going to find it. You better have spent a crap ton of money on comic books to get a part-time job at a local comic book shop. That's pretty much how that happens is you hang out there so much, they eventually just give you a key to the place and start paying you in comic books. But you see what I'm saying? You could explore, how to go out and set up a booth at your local Comic-Con. You could explore doing a podcast about comic books. You could explore writing a blog about comic books, stuff like that. That expresses what you are, that expresses what you do, and, shares a common passion. Because believe me, folks, I'm a geek in numerous routes, and it may have taken me years, literally years, and I'm talking 2/3 of a lifetime, years, but I've found the dorks that are into what I'm into. Finally, I have found the geeks in the world that do what I do and are into what I'm into, like the music that I like the movies that I like the comic books that I like, and some of them even like doing podcasts. And they've been on this show. Hey, what's up, Confucius and Fresh? And, people people like that. And Billy Stewart, and Swamp Thing and Randy. And, it can be had. It can be had. The thing is, are you searching for it? Are you searching for it? You have to remember that before the caterpillar becomes the chrysalis, becomes the butterfly, the caterpillar first finds a good place to change. It finds a good place to change. All right? It actively searches for like the right limb, the right place, the right home in which to do it. So you need to keep your eye out for people that are nurturing. Like I said with the oak seed, with the acorn, you got to figure out what kind of soil they grow in, and that's what you want to surround yourself with. All right, you want to surround yourself with people that are positive, people that do utterly believe in what you think and believe in your individuality and believe in your value in what you do. That's what's most important, is truly believing that you are valuable and that you are valuable in what you do. And when you believe that you're valuable, when you believe that you're valuable in what you do, that's when things will really start to change. That's when stuff will really start to come about. And I saw somebody today, Billy Dorsey. I love you, Billy Dorsey. He posted on Facebook, is a blessing outside of the will of God still considered a blessing? And I didn't even address the blessing. I guess I did address the blessing part, but I addressed the will of God part as a philosophic person and someone who likes to study and debate theology. And I was like, how arrogant of anybody, much less us, to interpret the will of God for us. To interpret the will of God and to say that something was the will of God is pretty haughty. However, to see the blessing before you and acknowledge the blessing, knowing that there is something greater than you out there. Doesn't matter if it's God, doesn't matter if it's Gaia, doesn't matter if it's the universe, doesn't matter if it's a quark to me. Okay, it matters if it's like quark from, like Deep Space Nine. Okay, it can't be quark from Deep Space Nine. But if it's a quark, like a cosmic particle that you believe changes things, what have you, man? It's about trying to change things and do things better in the world. And it literally comes down to realizing the blessing and realizing that it came from somewhere outside of yourself, and it came from something outside of you to you. And to be grateful for that is to not only honor the gift and the blessing, but is to be humble at the same time, to accept it, to be gracious for it. Because sometimes those blessings are hard to accept. I just had one happen to me today that was like, wow, whoa. And it hadn't even fully happened yet. But the opportunity came around, and it was like, whoa, this is a pretty decent opportunity for me doing what I'm doing. This is going to be fantastic, and what a great journey it's going to be. And that's really what you have to see it as, because, much like the kataba to the catharsis, to the chrysalis rather, to the butterfly, all that's left after that is the journey for the butterfly. Flower to flower, nectar to nectar, roost to roost, it's just a journey from that point on, and the whole world is your oyster. Everything is within your reach. You have to believe in yourself, and you have to put the effort into yourself to make it happen, folks. And that's just the simple fact of it. is that you've got to make sure that you are putting in your work. You've got to make sure that you're pushing your end of the slinky with your hand so that the universe can start pushing back with its end of the slinky. And then before you know it, you're slinking. Thanks so much for listening. Till next time. Take care. Take care of each other. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to this installment of Thinking Deeply with Dudes and Beer. Tune in next time for more deep introspection, contemplative thought, and general musings on humanity and life. Right here on Thinking Deeply with Dudes and Beer. Like what you heard? Feel free to tune into the other content by Dudes and Beer on dudesandbeer.com. Our content is also available on the Spreaker market, as well as SoundCloud, iTunes, YouTube, Stitcher, and your favorite podcast app. Dudes and Beer is a proud member of the Revolution Digital Group family of podcasts. Thanks so much for tuning in, everybody, and until next time, drink responsibly.